This live, so we're waiting for Peter sir to join. Let's give him a couple of minutes to join. Peter sir, I see you have joined. Let me, yeah, perfect. I have accepted your invite, sir. Waiting for you to join. Peter sir is facing some network issue. So there is.
No, I'm facing my phone. The phone is facing some network issues.
So good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Sharon?
I am doing good, sir. So it's been so many years since I saw you. Last was in Adipa.
That time you didn't have a mustache or beard, and I had a mustache. We've changed roles now.
Yeah, sir. So let's start with this live session. So, Peter, sir, I know you need no introduction, but just to give a small introduction about you. Peter has studied butterflies all his life. He's the founder of Butterflies Research Center in Bhimtal, Uttarakhand, and he's also a proud publisher of Synaptic Catalog of the Butterflies of India. So we'll start doing the question answer session, sir. And the first question to you is, how did it all start? How did this butterfly? How did you get interested in butterflying? And also tell us about the research center.
How did it start? My father was Bohemian, Republic now, and checked it of insect collectors in the world. So it's a sort of a cultural thing. When my father came to India, and he wasn't a club man, he wasn't into the British concept of clubs and all. So he used to live over here, and there's not much to do over here except to catch butterflies in the summer, and do hunting in the winter.
Beautiful place, sir. Beautiful place.
So that's how when I was born. He collected the house, and you want to know what the Butterfly Research Center does? The Butterfly Research Center is a platform where we publish a journal called BioNotes now, and for non-mathematical interpretation of nature. We do not encourage statistical analysis and all that, because I do not believe that they are valid. And they are valid in very few cases, but it's definitely not universally valid when you interpret nature. And we have a reference collection on the basis of which we help people with identifications. And we work on the taxonomy of Lepidoptera, so resolving taxonomic issues and stuff like that, describing new species, getting to know our Lepidoptera. See, the thing is that when the British left India, two major collections. One was the Zoological Survey of India, and one was the Imperial Forest Research Institute. And the collection of the Imperial Forest Research Institute was quite rather better than the Zoological Survey one, because when there were floods in Calcutta, they shifted the collection to Allahabad, and again it got under floods over there. And so a lot of the collection of the Zoological Survey of India was destroyed. And then the Imperial Forest Research Institute in Delhi, they had the best collection, but when at independence, they divided the collection between Pakistan and took the rest. So Pakistan got a pair of specimens, India got a pair of specimens, and the rest they took. Now with a pair of specimens, or one specimen, you can't do taxonomic work. There's no range of variation, there's no range of, you don't know how many different areas it's been collected in, how many different seasons it's been collected in. One specimen, so we have a lot of species in the Forest Research Institute. It used to be the Imperial Research Institute, Forest Research Institute. And there are 3,800 moths and butterfly species in that collection. The next best is 3,200 in the Indian Agricultural Research. So in India, I don't think even they know how many species they actually have. I asked them at the time when I wrote a paper. So this 3,800 species and 3,200 species basically duplicate.
So Peter sir, your voice is breaking. We can't hear you.
I'm so
Your
sorry.
voice is
The
breaking.
3,800 species and the 3,000 species. So we have about 4,000 species represented in Indian national collections. And out of an estimated total of 20,000 species. So we have a lot of moths and butterflies for which we do not have specimens in the country, and therefore taxonomic work is not possible. Right? So the Bombay Natural History Society has 1,500 species. So we don't have a complete collection of any family of moths, of any family of butterflies, I would say, except perhaps, I don't know. I don't know of any complete collection anywhere in the country. So that is really preventing good work from happening because we don't have a base, isn't it? If you don't have the tools, how are you going to make a machine? You
Sure,
need the
sir.
tools. So the
Yeah.
research center, good collection, and we are focusing on moths now, and we are trying to get together as wide a collection as possible so that people can come and work here so they would have specimens from all over the country. So comparative analyses and all that can happen. At the moment, there's no place in the country where you can go and find specimens from different parts of the country. They don't exist. Right? So that's what
Okay,
we
sir. So let's move on to the next question. So the next question which I wanted to ask you is, what is your best butterfly till date and a fond memory with it? I know you love all butterflies, but what is the best among them and a fond memory with it?
No. There's no such thing. And whatever I happen to be working on is the best at the moment. And as soon as the work is complete, then I have to move on. Huh? You can't carry baggage.
Yeah, sir. So the next question is, who was your biggest inspiration in the field of butterflying? I know you're going to tell me your dad, but yeah.
Okay, your dad. You want to hear it again? I
What,
haven't
sir?
heard the collection. You said that you wanted me to say your dad. So I said your dad. Now ask the question.
So my question was, who was your biggest inspiration in the field of butterflying? I know you're going to tell your dad,
Yeah,
but
sure.
yeah.
Yes. I suppose my dad used to drive us out on a day like this. We happen to
Yeah.
be here on holiday. Go outside. Don't sit
Yeah.
inside. Go out. So, well, we had to go out.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
He didn't like anything inside.
Okay, sir. So the next question, which is that one place in India that's pending for you to visit, or which is your dream place in India which you have planned to visit but you haven't visited till now, and why? For butterflying. Yeah.
I think I've been all over that I would like to, all the places I would like to visit. I think Fate has managed that I actually managed to visit them. And no, I really can't think of a place that I would love to visit which I haven't managed to visit yet. No. I've been all over. Yes,
Nice,
I've
sir.
been to
So
Nagaland.
the next question would be,
I have
so
been to Nagaland.
your voice is breaking.
Okay, I said I have not been to Nagaland and Manipur. And yes, they
Okay.
would be nice.
Okay.
But then I've been to the neighboring states, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Arunachal, and it's more or less the same.
Okay. So the next question I wanted to ask you is, do you remember the first butterfly you sighted?
I think I wrote about it first. I was too young at the time, but I remember when I was a child. manage it, but I tried. The net was too big.
Sir, no, sir, we couldn't hear you. What is your first butterfly?
I said I was too young, but what I do remember
Okay.
was an orange oak
Yeah.
which I tried to catch myself. And I didn't manage
Okay.
it because the
Okay.
net was too big. And from my mother's diaries, I discovered that I was 2.5 at the time. So it must be before that, the first one.
Sir, your network is breaking so badly, but
I warned
it's
you.
okay.
I
We'll
warned you.
just, yeah. Yeah, it's okay. We'll continue. So, share with us about your, best experience and memory you had during butterfly.
In a lifetime of that, how can you pick one or two experiences? Usually in experiences, the worst one is the one you remember, and the good ones you tend to forget in anything. So I don't know if I'm going to go try. Okay, here we are. Is it better now? Can you hear me?
No, sir.
We'll go out again.
Uh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And,
you asked me-
your voice is clearer than before.
This is very,
So yes,
this is
sir.
very,
So share with us about your best experience you had
there's
during
no,
butterfly.
there's no best experiences, Baba. Some funny ones, some miserable ones. And you, like I said, you usually remember the miserable ones. You don't remember the good times,
Yeah.
isn't it? So yeah, I remember on a trek
Okay.
once in Gadwal, it started raining just as we got into a cave, which was an overhang on the meadow. And it rained for 3 days, so we were sitting inside there for 3 days. And then it started leaking in the cave, then we had to set up the tents inside the cave. And yeah, it was fun. There was a river straight below. There was no place to move around. It's right, you get out of the tent and then the river is right below you. Quite far down, not right below, but maybe 200 meters below you. And there was a very steep meadow above. So there was nothing to do for 3 days, I remember. We ate khichdi. Yeah. There was a time when we were
Good, sir.
in the
And
back
and
hours.
okay. And my next question is, would you like to share about the courses that you are offering on behalf of the Butterfly Research Center?
Yeah, well, the courses we have 4 courses, 2 for butterflies, 2 for moths, and the thing is that people like to know. People get overwhelmed by the variety of butterflies, so they say, "Oh, we'll never be able to figure out all the names and all that." But once they see a collection and they realize there's a limited amount of species, and once they see them classified into families and understand how easy the whole thing is,
Yeah.
so the course tends to remove your fear of the unknown. And then we offer curation, which tells you how to make a collection. Because like I mentioned to you, what we lack in India are collections. And there is a lot of false information around that you need permission to collect butterflies, you need permission to collect moths. It's all rubbish.
Yeah.
But people have been repeating it, and where every time I've challenged them and said, could you quote the law and the section of the law where butterfly collecting is banned, they have been unable to. They just say, oh, I heard it. Sorry, that is rumor. And what we actually need at the moment is collections, because not collections just specimens, but specimens with data. So we know where what is. We are working on some moth families at the moment, and the number of new species is astonishing.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
only when you put them together in series that you see the difference. If you see a photograph, you cannot tell from a photograph which species it is. But if you put that specimen in a series of things in a box, then suddenly you see the difference. Yes, of course, this is that and that is that. Right?
Yeah.
So until you don't have specimens, you cannot open your mouth. And once the work is done, like Salim Ali, Dylan Ripley, these people, there were 29,000 bird skins in the Bombay Natural History Society collection. Right? And Alan Octavian Hume, I think he had 90,000 bird skins.
Yeah.
Once that has done, the comparisons have been done, now we don't need to kill birds. Once you know what's going on. With insects, we are still at the stage where we haven't the faintest idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So we need collections, and the courses that I offer here are trying to help people to build collections, which is a national duty. The Constitution of India says that among the duties of citizens is to spread the scientific temper and to protect wildlife. You cannot protect what you don't know about. There's no conservation plan for the Yeti.
Yeah.
Isn't the day we
Yes,
have
sir.
a specimen of the Yeti and we know where it's found and what it means, we can make a conservation plan. But until it's a rumor, it's a rumor. Right? So that's what we try to offer. And the advanced course is mainly for PhD students to help them with their particular topic. So it doesn't have a fixed content. The beginner's course is the curation, identification, taxonomy. How are things classified? What is the classification process? And how to preserve specimens and how to make them scientifically useful. Not colorful, not decorative, but scientifically useful. And the second course is for whatever you happen to challenge. You might want to learn how to dissect genitalia. You might want to learn how to do whatever ecology, whatever. So whatever your topic is, then that's an advance. Caleb.
So the last section which I wanted to ask you is, what do you suggest a newbie or an amateur if he or she wants to take this as a serious hobby, or if he or she wants to help in conserving butterflies and moths?
In order to conserve, first we have to understand. First, we have to understand in order to conserve, right? So at the moment, any information on the requirements of the different species would be useful.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. If you're going in a desert and you come upon a family of humans living over there, right? And they're living there permanently, it means that there is at least 8 liters of water a day within walking distance. Right?
Yeah.
It means that they get a food supply, at least a kilogram of grain a day to survive. So all these things you can figure out from seeing this family of 4 humans in the middle of a desert. The same way, now the other side of it is that if you want a family of 4 people to live in the desert, you'll need to have 8 liters of water a day and 1 kilogram of grain a day. It will reverse also. So what we need to know about the different butterfly species is what is restricting them to their habitats. Why is the Tamil cat's eye not found in Assam?
Yeah.
Why is the Buddha, that what's called the Malabar banded peacock, why isn't it found in Orissa?
Yeah.
Isn't it? So once we understand the factors that limit it, then we can understand what that creature requires.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And when we know what the creature requires, then we can make sure that those conditions are present over a sufficiently large area that there is a viable population. Because what we are looking at now, with the economists and the bankers playing their dirty tricks and telling us that if you don't chop down forests, you're not a clever fellow. Then what we have to do now is that we have to protect islands.
Yeah.
We in this current economic development, what they call development. Well, we have to protect islands of wildlife, which when the attitude changes and when we start using our brains again and the bankers, are locked up or sent to Mars or something, when that happens, then those islands can expand again. But at the moment, we have to think in terms of conservation islands, a network of conservation islands which can support viable populations. Isn't it? So for that, any newbie can observe the important is to observe and use their brain and try to figure out what is restricting the different things to those places so that we understand what the requirements are. What is the difference between a forest in Kerala and a forest in Andhra Pradesh? That, for example, your Malabar banded peacock and the what is that called, the Papilio leomedon, and all the Kerala endemics. So why aren't they found in Andhra Pradesh? What is the difference between the forest there and there?
Yeah.
Isn't it? And then we can secure plans. At the moment, we fenced off areas and said, well, just keep it the way it is. But we don't know what we are doing. Isn't it? So that's how newbies, and not only newbies, everybody can contribute.
Yes, sir. So yeah, we have come to a conclusion. So we'll take in questions from the viewers for the next 2 to 3 minutes, and let me read out to you the questions if there are any. One sec. So Satya K. Selvam, there's a person called Satya K. Selvam. He is asking, so can we expect a book on moths similar to your butterflies book?
There are about an estimated 18,000 or 19,000 species of moths in India. So there will be a series
Yeah.
of books. But we are working on some families. Not a book. You can't deal with it in a book.
Yeah. If there are any questions, viewers, you can please comment it here, or you can always contact Peter sir either in Facebook or Instagram if you feel like. And before we end this session, Sir Peter sir, thank you so much. Even if you have this bad network issue, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for accepting to come live with me. It's nice to see you after so many years.
Definitely.
Again,
Congratulations
it's still a dream for me to visit your research center. I will visit one fine day.
Dreams happen when they have to happen and not before. Dreams come true. You don't need a lockdown to do these sort of things. But if it's a lockdown that caused you this to happen, it's good. But keep it up because it's very good to remain in interaction with everyone.
Yeah.
Facebook is all filtered out now. Facebook groups are just like collectors now. But yes, definitely, why have interactions with everybody?
Yeah.
Please keep it up. Don't stop this effort.
No, sir, I won't stop this. So a lot of people are telling wonderful session and nice to see you. Navangla Bhutia is commenting, Geeta Yadav, and also Stephen Woodall from South Africa. He has commented, good to hear Peter's voice after being Facebook friends.
Same here. Good, excellent. So, God bless. See you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much again.